So the PBA just announced a new rule about urethane balls, and this one is definitely gonna make some changes. So what the PBA has done is they've changed the urethane hardness rule, taking it up from 73 hardness, which is the new USPC rule, to 78 hardness. What this means is that basically I would think pretty much any urethane ball manufactured right now on the market right now is going to be too soft to be used on the 2024 PBA Tour. This is a rule that, as far as I know, applies to all tour levels, so Regional Tour, PBA 50 Tour, PBA National Tour from the 2024 season. This takes basically all the urethane balls that are being used right now on the PBA Tour and pushes them aside, and it's going to be really interesting to see if the manufacturers are going to make new urethane balls that are 78 hardness or higher, or if they're going to change their current lineup of urethane balls to the PBA rule, even though the USPC rule is something else, or if they're not going to make urethane balls for the PBA Tour at all. I doubt the last one is going to be an option, so I think they're going to make some PBA Tour specific urethane balls that are higher hardness, just because of how big of an impact and how good of a solution urethane is on a lot of different conditions. But it's going to be really interesting to see how a 78 hardness urethane compares to a 73 hardness urethane, because I think the old 90s and 80s urethanes were about 78 hardness, and those are a lot different than the pitch blacks and the purple hammers that we have today. So it's going to be really interesting to see if it completely changes what urethane does on the PBA Tour, how much you're able to use it, and to what extent it's going to be usable at all. I would imagine it will still have some play on shorter patterns, maybe some medium patterns for some players, but I doubt we're going to see a 78 hardness urethane being dominant on a 45-foot pattern. And it's a really interesting change, because with how big of urethane is, potentially it can completely change how the lanes play, how the lanes break down, what players perform the best on tour. But I will say this, the players on tour are so good that even though you say, well, you can't throw these urethane balls anymore, and they've built up a skill set to where they're really good at using those skills to use those urethane balls, they're going to learn, they're going to adapt, and they're still going to perform well on tour, even if they can't use their normal pitch blacks or their normal purple hammers or whatever. I doubt someone's going to go from being a really good player to not being able to do anything at all, but it's certainly going to be some different skill sets that you're going to have to use, and it's going to be a challenge for some players, no doubt. But it's gonna be, I'm really excited to see how this impacts the tour, the results on tour, the scoring pace, the lane conditions, who's at the top of the rankings and everything. But ultimately, everyone out there is really good, and they're gonna figure out a way to solve the lane conditions even without having to use urethane. It's just gonna be different balls, different layouts, different strategies, different skill sets, different releases, all kinds of things that we're gonna work on, rather than just picking a urethane ball and making that work on whatever lane condition we're on. But it's going to be really interesting to see how the 2024 season plays out now, and how big of an effect this rule actually has. The other part of the rule is that on the PBA National Tour, only the PBA National Tour, all balls used on the 2024 season has to be manufactured after 1st of August 2022. That's the date where the new USPC rule of 73 hardness took effect. So basically, on the PBA National Tour, the highest level of competition we have, the rules are restricted. You can't use old balls that don't live up to the current rule of 73 hardness. You can't use urethane balls that aren't 78 hardness or higher. And it makes sense that the highest level of competition has the strictest rules, and that the equipment used at the highest level need to follow the rules that are in place right now in the playing field. I think that makes sense. It's not going to change a whole lot of what reactive balls are going to be used. Most of the time players are using newer equipment, some of the newer equipment on the market, so I don't think that part is going to change that much. But definitely the urethane rule is going to change some things. It's going to be interesting to see if the USPC does something, because right now you're still allowed to use all your urethane balls, all your old reactives if you're bowling USBC events. So if you just want to bowl league, or you just want to bowl your normal club matches or whatever, this doesn't affect you at all. But it's going to be interesting to see if USBC says, okay, we're going to follow suit and make new rules for hardness, or make new rules for this or that, and how that's going to affect that. Because it's a little bit funny, because I actually think the PBA is the place where urethane has the least impact, because most of the time on the PBA tour, urethane is only usable for like 1, 2, maybe 3 games, and then people switch to reactive. Then there's the odd tournament where everyone uses urethane all the time, but for most tournaments it's not something that you use for all games. It's something that you use to get off to a decent start, and then you go to reactive. Where if you look at championships and tournaments in Europe, and I'm sure tournaments in Asia too, they're pretty much exclusively urethane for a lot of tournaments. Like we just had the European Championships, and I think there was only like 2 guys in the top 24 that didn't use urethane. We had a bunch of European Tour events where urethane was basically the only balls being thrown when you got to the finals. So it would be interesting to see a rule like this implemented at a World Championship or the European Tour or something like that, because I think that would have a much bigger impact than what it's going to have on the PBA Tour. But it does make sense that you make the strictest rules at the highest level of competition, and then we see maybe in a couple of years the rules are going to change, and the hardness limit for all urethane balls is going to go up with the USBC. We'll see. I think it depends on how this PBA rule plays out and what kind of consequences it has, and how it changes the, I don't want to say changes the sport, but changes how the PBA unfolds the next couple years. But it is very interesting. Again, I want to stress, if you don't plan on bowling the PBA Tour, then this doesn't affect you at all right now. If you do plan on bowling the PBA Tour, if you want to go out on national tour, you better make sure that your reactive balls are manufactured after August 2022, and you got to make sure that your urethane balls are 78 hardness or higher. And if you want to bowl any PBA regionals or anything, you have to make sure that you follow the urethane rule. But the date requirement for reactive balls don't apply to like the regional tour, so you can still use older reactives on the regional tour if you want to. Just make sure you're up to date with the rules so you don't get fined or disqualified. What do you think about this? Like, let me know in the comments. Do you think this is a good rule? How do you think it's going to affect the playing environment, the players? Do you think the USBC should change their rules to follow the PBA, or do you think they're gonna do it? Yeah, let me know in the comments, and I'll try to reply and answer any questions you have in the comments. So yeah, thanks for watching. Make sure you subscribe somewhere down here, and I'll see you in the next video, and I'll see you in the comments. So make sure to fire in.